Let me ask you something. When was the last time you ignored a quiet signal in your body, your life, or your work, not because you didn't notice it, but because you told yourself you should be able to handle it? Most people I meet in midlife aren't struggling because they lack any intelligence or discipline. They're struggling because they've been doing everything, and maybe even alone, for way too long. Today's conversation is about what changes when you stop pushing through and start paying attention. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been listening for a minute or two, you already know this is a space where science meets lived experience and age is treated as an advantage, not a limitation. Today, I want to talk about something that shows up every single January and yet somehow still makes us feel like it's a personal failure when it happens. That feeling of being behind in your goals, behind in your habits, behind on your health, behind on your year. The list goes on. And it's not even February yet. I want to say this clearly right out of the gate. Feeling behind in January, it is not a character flaw. It is a physiological, psychological, and environmental response. Stay with me. We see this pattern consistently in circadian biology, stress, physiology, and cognitive load research, especially in midlife adults. And yes, I, my friends, am feeling it too. You are not alone. Here is where I am today. It's Tuesday morning. Normally by now, this week's episode's already recorded, it's in the queue, and it is ready to go. This one wasn't. It's the end of January. It's been cold. Work for me has been very, very nonstop. I've been compartmentalizing life like a professional sport. Hospital, podcast, social media, planning the year, trying somewhat to have a social life, trying to stay connected to my body and also to my family. And then Saturday hit. My little dog, Oscar, who is 15, he really wasn't quite himself. Nothing really dramatic at first, just a little bit off for him. And when you've lived with an animal that long, you know the difference between off and when, something's just not right. So while batting down the hatches for the most recent winter storm that we've just had, I found myself doing something I had technically been meaning to do for months. Finding him a new vet since I relocated to this area of Brooklyn. But here's the thing. It wasn't just about booking an appointment. It meant pulling together 15 years of his medical and vet records, organizing them, uploading them, researching vets who specialize in senior dogs. Now, and looking for offices that weren't really massive, clinical, and overwhelming because he's a little gentle, kind soul, and I wanted this to be as low stress as possible for his aging little body. So all of this happened while work was busy. Days off were spent recovering from the busy work days. The weather was brutal, and my nervous system was really, I have to say, truth be told, my nervous system has been a little bit stretched beyond capacity. And then I actually caught myself thinking, I'm behind. I'm behind on my content, I'm behind on my systems, and I'm behind on my goals. But here's the reframe, and this really matters. What I was actually doing, I really wasn't falling behind. I was actually just responding to reality, like most of us. Since when does everything go smooth as soon as we have an idea or try to put a plan in place? And midlife is where that distinction, it becomes everything. So let's zoom out for a moment. January does, besides feeling cold, if you're in the northern part of the United States, it can feel a little bit heavy for very real reasons. We've got shorter days that are disrupting our circadian rhythm, right? So we have less sunlight impacting our serotonin and our melatonin. The nervous system is calming down from overstimulation, right? We We talked about the holidays in the last few episodes, deadlines, social obligations, and then this pressure to poof, like have a magical restart and everything figured out and get organized once the new year hits. It's like, what world? I mean, it can happen, but we're still picking up the pieces along the way from the following year. And to that, something else we don't talk about enough is decision fatigue. By midlife, your brain has made millions of decisions professionally, personally, and emotionally. The brain's executive function depletes faster under ambiguity, which is exactly what January creates. So when January arrives with this loud cultural message of reinvent everything now, your nervous system often registers this as a threat, not so much as an opportunity. And this is why motivation feels unreliable, because motivation is not a fuel source, it is a byproduct. Motivation follows predictability, not willpower. So, what does actually create momentum? Systems. I know we talked a little bit about this in previous podcasts, and this is something I am personally working on all through January. Systems reduce decision load. They create repeatability. They support you when the energy is low, motivation's low, which, by the way, is a very, very normal winter state. We are meant as humans, animals are all hibernating this time of year. And here's the piece many high functioning adults miss. By midlife, the issue isn't stress, it's cumulative allostatic load from years of high responsibility. This is why trying harder really rarely works in January. You're asking your nervous system to sprint during a season designed for consolidation. And this is also why shame creeps in. Okay. So all of this is just compounding on each other because we're taught that if we're capable, we really shouldn't need help. And we know that is just simply not true. Along with that we shouldn't need structure. We should just power through. I know this is sounding familiar to those of you listening. And that belief is extremely outdated. And frankly, it's bad science. So, what do we do? How are we going to handle this instead? And I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing, not because it's perfect, far from, because it's real and it seems to be falling into place despite feeling somewhat overwhelmed, even though I don't really care for the word overwhelmed, but feeling a little overwhelmed and uninspired. But this at the baseline seems to be holding it all together for me. First, I stopped asking what's wrong with me and I started asking, what season am I actually in? Not what's going on around me, but where am I currently? So, winter is not a launching season. Winter is a refining season. So, if you're shedding, decluttering, reassessing, taking a little bit of stock and whatnot, all of that counts. That is all your clearing process, unloading from the previous year. And I know for me, I've been really naturally feeling like this over the last several weeks. But like I said, this is all part of the system. Two, I got granular instead of dramatic. So literally, one full afternoon, I organized everything related to my health. It took a lot longer than I expected. However, I listed all of my supplements. I found the links, information for everything pertaining to my health, my providers, all, like I said, the supplements, any medications, hormones that I'm taking, all of it, all of it. It took an entire afternoon. I listed it in the notes section of my computer. And then I went on ChatGPT, which, by the way, is not a replacement for your doctor by any means. but it is a really good way to sift through lots of information. So I did all that because clarity creates calm in the brain and all around. And the hard truth, you cannot manage what you don't measure. So that's what I was trying to do. Measure and take stock everything that was in my supplement stack, in my refrigerator, in my medicine cabinet, essentially, and get clear. And also, I was doing that to get clear for myself, look at where things were overlapping. What do I need more of? What do I need less of? And that's part of it. Maybe there's an area of your life, whatever your goal is for the year, that would be helpful for you. All part of it. So even if you don't feel like you're making leeway, just gathering everything is a huge beginning. Number 3, I shifted from goals to systems. So last year looked like momentum from the outside. I did get a lot accomplished in 2025. And it's true. And I'm not discounting that. But I felt like on my internal, like on my inside, it was a lot of doing. So for me, this year is about systems that support my longevity physically, mentally, financially, right? So it's like one goal, a handful of meaningful experiences, a few habits stacked slowly and realistically for the year. Number 4, I acted before I felt ready. Confidence, it is not a prerequisite, it is a result. Like literally, I was watching something on Instagram and it said, drop and do 5 push ups. And I did it. I got on my kitchen floor and I did the push ups. And I felt really good. I'm like, see, it doesn't have to be that hard to just do it. I think I was like still in my pajamas. I did it over this past weekend, but I did it and I felt really, really good. Confidence comes from action, especially imperfect action. So I hope me sharing a little bit about my process, my transparency, where I really am, where I'm really feeling. Life for me is lifing, but these little systems are working for me. And they're taking longer than I expected, and that's okay. It's okay to kind of fall off the face of the earth, what have you, for a little while. It's winter, it's cold. We're in that season where we're wanting to stay inside. Now I am getting out here and there, having lunch on occasion with friends. But for the most part, I am really working, recovering from work, and really getting my systems set up for me for the long haul. And I feel really good about that because I know once I get really organized and clear in this area, I'm going to take off. And that is also saying no to some things. I have a trip planned for this spring, and I'm rethinking it because it's not really in alignment with what I want to do with my home and where I want to be. So I'm having to re-edit, and I'm not looking at it as a failure. I'm looking at this as, okay, I'm just getting clear. Maybe it doesn't have to be put off forever, but maybe for right now. So if you're listening and thinking, I didn't start my year the way I wanted to, I want you to hear me and hear this clearly. You are not behind. You are in motion. January, it is not a deadline. It is a checkpoint. You're checking in, reassessing, etc. And midlife, this time of life is where you stop forcing timelines that don't respect your biology, your responsibilities, or your real life experience. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who needs permission to slow down without feeling like they are quitting. Midlife isn't the moment you fall behind. It's the moment you start choosing with clarity. And the more informed you are, the more powerful those choices become. From New York, I'm Rosemarie. This is Second Opinion. Thank you for stopping by, for dropping in, for being curious. See you next time.